Are you implementing social emotional learning into your classroom? If you are, awesome. If you're not, you really need to get started because it's so important. Either way, I'm excited to share 3 common mistakes that I see teachers making when they are implementing social emotional learning in their classroom. These mistakes will keep you stuck, and they will even slow you down from making some great progress with your students. So let's make sure that you're avoiding these at all costs. My name's Elizabeth Peterson, and I love talking about social emotional learning, especially SEAL, social emotional artistic learning. It's a branch of arts integration that couples the amazing power of the arts with the growing need for students' social emotional development. So many teachers are looking into how they can implement social emotional learning and SEAL into their classrooms, but they might be making a couple of these mistakes. So let's take a closer look at them. Mistake number 1 is using a one-off lesson without a holistic plan for implementing SEL into your teaching. Using a lesson that focuses in on social emotional learning may not seem like a mistake at first, but it actually is. And here's why. Let's say you find a lesson that's really engaging and meaningful. In fact, I have many free SEAL lessons available to you on teachseal.com that you can choose from. You do the lesson, your students love it, and you will feel amazing after completing a successful SEAL lesson. But here's the thing, you can't just do 1 or 2 lessons like this and call it done. You see, there's a way to establish any SEL into your teaching that will create the most lasting results for you and for your students. For example, when you dig into what SEAL really is all about by taking one of our SEAL courses, you will get all the step-by-step guidance you'll need to effectively establish a social emotional routine into your classroom so that you'll be able to integrate the arts into your students' social emotional learning every single day. That's the key. Making your social emotional teaching something that happens naturally every single day. In SEAL, we'll go through all 3 waves or phases of the framework and be able to actually transform what you do in the classroom, even if you're teaching online. This holistic approach to integrating the arts with SEL through SEAL involves looking at the SEAL teacher mindset in Wave 1, discovering the SEAL teacher methods of how to make SEAL part of your time in the classroom in Wave 2, and finally, you learn so many integrations and how to implement them with the most success in Wave 3. We're actually going to take a closer look at this entire framework in our next video. So be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified so that you can know exactly when it comes out. Let's move on to mistake number 2. Teachers think they need to follow a set sequence of SEL lessons. I made this mistake for years. I followed a program that had a strict sequence of lessons to follow week after week after week. And while the concepts were good, even great, the delivery of them was not. I sat in front of the room with my 4th graders sitting close by, and I read off of a card, and I read the words I was supposed to, and I asked the questions I was required to, and listened for the answers that were expected. And again, the content was great, but the delivery just wasn't. There were a handful of kids who would contribute answers, while the others just kind of sat and let things happen. And I would do my best to put the effort in and try to get more students participating, but it just was such a struggle. Our SEL time became something that I just wanted to get through so that I could check off the box. And when we got to the end of the curriculum, I was excited to do other, more engaging things with that time. This is a big part of why I created SEAL. It's an engaging, hands-on way to learn about and develop social emotional skills. And when you learn how to teach SEAL, you won't be tied down to yet another program. There's no set sequence to follow or cards to read or videos you have to watch. Instead, you learn how to weave in the strategies and activities and lessons that will just come alive for you and your students. You learn how to truly reach your students through creative, artistic experiences that actually help to develop your students' social emotional skills. And if you're still required to teach using another SEL program, the great thing is that SEAL, just like any other wonderful arts integration, can integrate with what you're already using. I promise you, SEAL is about transforming your teaching, not adding to it. Finally, let's take a look at mistake number 3, which is that teachers don't always fully understand their part in their students' social emotional learning. Here's the truth. You are the most important part of your classroom. You are with your students day in and day out, delivering content and creating the safe, inviting environment for your students to learn. Never underestimate your role and the one that you have in your students' social emotional well-being. In fact, this is what I talk about in this video right here. And it's going to be the topic of some upcoming videos as well, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss out on those videos. When you learn to teach SEAL, we go over exactly how to make sure you never make this mistake. In fact, in our first wave or phase of our SEAL courses, we focus on you, your role as a SEAL teacher, and how you can become empowered with this new knowledge while inspiring your students with the SEAL experiences that you're going to lead them through. So let's turn these mistakes into action steps instead. Number 1, instead of using 1 or 2 really good lessons, think about the holistic plan that you or your school has for teaching your students how to develop their social emotional skills. Number 2, instead of feeling like the only way you're going to be effective is by following a set sequence of SEL lessons, consider how you can engage your students in more hands-on, creative experiences that will be so much more meaningful for them and for you. And number 3, understand the important role that you play in your students' social emotional development. When you look at the social emotional work you're doing in your classroom in school, how does it match up? You know, one of the main reasons I got into teaching in the first place was to really make a difference in my students' lives. I really wanted to help them with the curriculum and also to help them show kindness to other people, work well with others, and show perseverance as they worked. How about you? But the thing was, when I followed the prescribed SEL curriculum, everything felt really robotic, and my students' behaviors didn't really improve at all. I found myself making these mistakes. It wasn't until I started really experimenting with the arts in my SEL lessons that I realized I was focusing too much on the program when I really should have been focusing on the skills and the experiences that I could give my students through the arts. And once I started giving my students hands-on artistic experiences, they started opening up and started sharing and connecting with each other, and their overall desire to learn actually improved. Within days, my students were talking and acting differently. All those boring lessons were replaced with real hands-on experiences, and I felt connected with my students better than ever before. And I want that same thing for you and for your students. Now, if you're interested in learning more about SEAL and how it can help you to avoid these mistakes, be sure to register for my free workshop, The 3 Secrets to Integrating the Arts with SEL. It will take you through proven strategies to use art as a creative way to build relationships and tap into your students' full potential. We're going to look at all kinds of things. We're going to look at creative and engaging activities that will help you with this holistic approach to teaching social emotional learning without taking precious time away from your other lessons and content. I promise. How to create a safe and supportive learning environment where your students can open up, even if you're teaching online. We're going to look at the important role that you play in all of this, even if you're not an artist or even if you're not certified in social emotional learning and consider yourself a therapist. It's okay. Plus, you'll also get a certificate for 1 professional development hour. I'll put the link to the free workshop in the description below. So let's make sure you avoid these mistakes, shall we? And I hope to see you inside the workshop next. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you in the workshop.